me start a little presentation for you all. All right. Okay, so thank you all so much again for being here. Like I said, this is just such a powerful time in the world to be calling in life. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This presentation is called Get Pregnant, Journey to Conception. And I'm just so grateful to be here today because I have been putting together this work for so much of my life. Actually, it feels like such a culmination of things that I've been working on for so long. So my name is Sierra. My name is Sierra Brashear, and I am a co-founder of Cultivate Balance, which is an Ayurveda practice that's based here in Boulder, Colorado. My co-practitioner is Molly McConnell, and she is also on the call today. She's going to be helping with tech support, and she'll be able to sort of answer any questions that show up, or let you know how we will answer questions that show up if you want to type those into the chat box as we move throughout, or if there's any technical issues or anything like that, we can reach out to Molly via the chat box. And I'm so grateful that she's here because she and I have built and poured ourselves into an Ayurveda practice that we're building together. We are both clinical Ayurvedic practitioners, and we studied for over 2,000 hours with a teacher named Alakananda Ma here in Boulder, Colorado. And we have been continuing our learning even beyond with Alakananda Ma, and that's been just an incredible aspect of our journey over the last 2 years as well. Many of you who are here might know me through Vibrant Souls, which is one of my other wildest passions. Vibrant Souls has a yoni steaming blend, and I think a lot of you have found me and my work through that. And I founded Vibrant Souls in 2014 after I became a doula and an herbalist, and I through being a doula, I worked with women through the journey of bringing life into this world, and learned a lot about the pregnancy aspect of the childbearing years. But also through the work of yoni steaming, I have ended up supporting literally thousands of women to become pregnant, both through the art of yoni steaming itself, but then also through just supporting other ideas and drawing in Ayurveda as it came to me. And now, 6 years later, I have collected just such an unbelievable amount of resources around fertility, and I feel so called to share it with you all, with so many of you who I know are so highly intentional and excited to bring life in. So this workshop that I'm sharing with you today is going to be an hour. I hope we don't go over. I have packed so much information in that we might go over, so hopefully you can stay for that. But this is really actually just scratching the surface. I have put together a 12-week program in which I'm going to lead you step by step, and go into a lot of what I'm sharing with you today, really, really deeply. So like deepening into the practices and also telling you a lot more about the why. The why is really important. And today I just wanted to share so many action steps that you can take, that it's almost like I didn't have time to share all of the reasons why, but I just want you to know that everything that I'm sharing with you is deeply rooted in wisdom, a lot of which is Ayurveda. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what Ayurveda is as we dive in here. So let's see, I don't want to miss anything. So I'm going to actually read from my script quite a bit because I want to make sure that I don't leave anything out, because I've been so intentional about including as much as possible. But I want to mention that this workshop and also the course, the program, the 12-week program, are not only geared to people who are trying to conceive a child in partnership. It's also, you're welcome to be part of this, and I intend to include you if you are on a journey to conceive and raise a child on your own. This is also for people who are seeking to conceive or raise a child in a same-sex partnership. Absolutely, this is for you. And it's also for people who don't necessarily identify as women, but who may have female anatomy and are able to conceive and gestate a child. This is also for you. So I'm going to do my best to use language that supports that, other than what's been conditioned in my own mind. But I want you to know that you are all welcome here, however you are choosing to raise your family. Let's see. Okay. So today we're going to pack a bunch, just so much useful information into the talk, and you're going to be able to start getting integrated right away. In these 60 minutes, we're going to cover why preparation for conception is essential to the long-term health and well-being of your child, the 4 main barriers to successful conception so that you can start thinking about those and how to work through them for yourself, how to clear your mind and body, just as you would weed and till the earth before planting seeds. Then we're also going to touch on how to build your temple, which is your womb or your body, just as you would nourish the soil before you would plant a seed. And then I'm also going to share a few key secrets about how and when to make love to conceive a healthy, balanced, and highly aware child. I am so excited because there's so many of you on the call, and I just want to remind you that, like, right now we have over 65, 70, I can't even see anymore the number, on the call. And it's just a reminder that you are not alone. If you've been experiencing fertility challenges, we've maxed out the number of people that we could even have register for this workshop, and whether or not they were able to make it, those are people who are with you in this. And so I want you to know that this is a community that is very safe and also supportive and with you on your fertility journey. So excited to have you all here. So now this is actually the slide that I wanted to share with you. The creation of the universe and the creation of a fetus are the same, which is a quote by one of our great teachers, Dr. Vasant Lad. So I wanted to remind you, as you embark on your fertility journey, remember that the creation of life is indeed a sacred act, and that should be held core to your journey. It can be compared in many ways to some of the most fundamental creation of our world, including cultivation of the life that sustains us. So it is said that the 4 of the essential components for cultivating crops are also important for cultivating life within: the right field, timing, water, and seed. So throughout this workshop, we're going to touch on several ways to be sure that you are tending to these key aspects of calling life into the world. Remember that also that conception calls upon that potent and powerful energy of mother consciousness, that goddess energy that resides within the human heart, steering us toward the light of awareness and nourishing every womb, whether that's physical or metaphorical. You are the carrier of this wisdom and light, and in conceiving a child, you are stepping into your cosmic role of creator, life carrier, love transmitter, and healer of generational wounds. Keep this deeper meaning in mind as you move through this journey of conception. This is really the core of what we're up to here. So with this workshop and this program that I put together for you, it's really a twofold approach. So we're going to discuss what that means. The first phase is to clear the body and mind. And the second phase is to build and nourish your temple in preparation to nurture a baby inside. The idea is that before conceiving a healthy child, you should strive to be as healthy in body and mind yourself first, as this is what provides the fertile ground for your embryo to grow and thrive. Today, we're going to actually spend most of the time talking about the clearing, because you want to actually clear for about 8 weeks, at least 8 weeks, before you build this building and nourishing phase. And even if you already consider yourself to be a very healthy, clean, aware, conscious person, yes, of course we all are, but there's always more that can be done. There's always a deeper layer of clearing that can happen both physically and emotionally. So that goes for you and your child, or sorry, your child, your partner as well. And the two of you, as you both do this clearing, you are setting your child up for a healthy, balanced, aware and highly aware future. So you and your partner can both be working on this, and you can begin now by surrounding and filling yourselves with positive thoughts, beautiful thoughts, meditations, wise contemplations, any of those things as you move away from a negative thought pattern and toward more of a conscious, loving, peaceful, energetic space. You are actually activating that clearing, and that's something that you can start doing right now today that will impact actually the psyche of your child. So how cool is that? And we're going to talk more about that in a little bit. Well, we're going to talk about it now. So the constitution of your child is actually determined at the time of conception. And when I say constitution, I'm speaking to the mind body type or the metabolic type that we work with a lot in Ayurveda. And I am going to share with you a little bit more about Ayurveda in just a second. But this constitution is going to inform so much about what your child's future is like. It actually helps inform how the body works, what conditions the body is predisposed to, how the mind engages with the world, what this future person loves to be into, focuses their time and energy on. All of that is actually determined by the Ayurvedic constitution that's determined at the time of conception. And what matters at the time of conception is a whole lot of cosmic energies, the way the stars align, the weather outside, what season of the year it is, but also, most importantly, what the physical and mental state of both of the parents are at that moment of conception. So this is what you're holding right now. This is your mission right now, is to actually become the healthiest that you possibly can be, because it actually impacts your child in a very profound way. So you can begin now. Now, what is Ayurveda? You've heard me talking about it, and I know some of you may not know a lot about Ayurveda, may not know what this word even means. But for those of you who haven't heard of it before, Ayurveda is the ancient holistic healing science of India. It has over 2,000 years worth of case studies proving its efficacy. The idea is essentially that we want to realign our body and mind with the rhythms and elements of nature. And in doing so, we allow our intrinsic wellness to arise. This is, let's see, Ayurveda also translates as the science of life. So it is a super powerful, super well respected, like I said, one of the oldest systems of healing on planet Earth. It's been practiced continuously, and most of the wisdom that I'm going to share with you here is rooted in the wisdom of Ayurveda. Now, this wisdom comes from the ancient Sanskrit texts from India, and it has been translated into English, and then it's been adapted essentially to the modern context. And you'll find that it's actually very, very accessible. In the 12-week course, I will get more into the terminologies and the specific Ayurveda principles. But for this workshop, I wanted you all to be able to walk away without needing to even get into some of those principles, just understanding how things apply. But just know that as we go through this, there is a vast, this is the tip of the iceberg, and there's vast knowledge beneath the recommendations that are showing up here. So, and also the reason that I have this photo of this woman here meditating is because Ayurveda invites you to just tune in and listen. Oftentimes the first step is to just do nothing. It's just to sit and maybe breathe and listen and actually tune into what it is that your body is telling you. A lot of times we are disregarding our inherent wisdom, our intuition, and we are forgetting that so much of that wisdom is inside. So Ayurveda is an invitation to listen not only to the practitioners and the doctors and all the people who are telling you what to do, but to make sure that you check in with yourself as well. So be sure to keep listening throughout for what works for you and for what doesn't. Okay. So before we get into solutions and strategies, I wanted to quickly go over the 4 main barriers to successfully conceiving a child. And it is very important to keep in mind that in roughly 40% of infertility cases or fertility challenges, the cause lies in the female's anatomy or the female's reproductive capacity. And in another 40% of fertility challenges, the issue lies in the male's reproductive capacity. So this isn't simply the work of the female. I want everyone to be sure that you know that the partners and the male, the male who is part of the equation for you, needs to also be doing the work. 20% of the time, it's both. So that's something to keep in mind as well. So as you move through this, know that it's not all on you, and that it's something that you can really be working on together. So as we go through the next few slides and I talk about the barriers, take a moment to consider how each of these factors are playing into your life. And this is why you have a journal, because if you see something that you're like, yeah, that is something that I should probably take a deeper look at, or something that, I didn't realize that that might be playing into my challenges, or I didn't realize that that might cause me a challenge as I embark on my fertility journey, you'll want to take note. Be really thinking about how this applies to your life. So the first barrier is stress. The rapid increase of stress in our society has had a really profound impact on fertility. In fact, it is barrier number 1 for a reason. There's actually scientific studies to prove the relationship between higher levels of stress hormones in the body and taking longer to get pregnant. And the reality is, it's just, your body is smart. Your body knows that periods of stress in your life are not ideal times to get pregnant. It's not an ideal time to direct all that energy toward, raising a child, and when there's so much stress in your life. So what are some of the stressors that might be showing up in your life? A lot of these have shown up with clients that I've worked with, and truly it might be hard to make the connection that these things are causing you extraordinary amounts of stress. So a high pressure job, big one. So many people are out there experiencing very, very, very high pressure jobs, and maybe think, there's very much of an achieving mindset going on, and I can relate. But high pressure jobs are number 1 in the stress department. Excessive travel, which is often related to a high pressure job, jobs where you're having to travel constantly for work, is a big one. And also just people who have a lifestyle of traveling a whole lot. Airline travel, road travel, all of that is very disruptive to your routine and to your body's internal balance, and can really impact and cause stress, which causes an impact on your fertility. Also, an uncomfortable living situation. For some people, that might mean living with in-laws or roommates that are stressing you out. Maybe you live somewhere where you don't quite feel at home, whatever that might mean. That can cause an incredible amount of stress that can show up in fertility challenges. Also, unprocessed grief. Perhaps you lost a family member early on. Perhaps you've had some other sort of tragedy in your past, or perhaps you are a true empath who is holding the collective trauma of the world right now. We are experiencing a lot, and there's a lot to be held. And that unprocessed grief, it's not to say that you can't move through it. It just needs to be processed in order to be sure that you are creating a healthy environment to conceive. Living in fear, whether it is fear for your physical body, or it's more of a subtle fear, such as a fear of rejection or failure. Maybe you have a fear around not being a good enough mother, or perhaps about not having enough money to support your child. You need to start to think about what sorts of fears, whether or not they're conscious, they might be subconscious, are showing up, and how can you start to address those and work through those fears. And then finally, stress about fertility challenges themselves. There can be sort of a snowball effect, a feedback loop, in which the stress itself contributes to the challenge. And then the more challenge that you have, the more stress you have. And that's a feedback loop that we see a lot, that hopefully some of the techniques that I'm going to share with you are going to help work through those on their own. So like I said, all of this will affect your fertility. So what of these things can you start to address and look at right now? Okay, barrier number 2 is imbalanced eating habits. So as you know, we are what we eat, right? So what you put into your body literally becomes your body. Your body, of course, is the place where your baby is going to be supported and nourished. So this is vital. Not only that, according to Ayurveda, imbalanced eating habits lead to a toxic buildup in the body, which literally clogs the channels necessary to conceive a healthy child. So this is not only about nourishing your cells, but it's also about preventing toxic buildup that can actually prevent an embryo from implanting. And we will talk about that more. So ask yourself now about your eating habits and be honest with yourself. Are you eating whole organic foods, or are you eating processed foods with synthetic ingredients and additives? Are you eating at regular meal times, or are you skipping meals? How often do you overeat? Are you eating warm, well-cooked, and well-spiced foods, or do you tend to eat cold, dry, and unspiced foods? And that might mean salads, which we will get to at another time. And are you eating foods that are compatible with your unique constitution, your unique metabolic type? This is, again, an Ayurvedic concept that we touched on earlier about your child's constitution, but you yourself have a constitution, and what you eat impacts it. And your constitution helps define what you should be eating. And we can get into that as we move through this journey together. But all of this will affect fertility. And so again, what can you think about right now? What small shifts can you make now to start removing some of these things from your diet? The next barrier is an unwholesome lifestyle. So this is a time to get very real with yourself, right? A lot of these things are things that they're very common crutches in society. Many of them are socially acceptable, and that's, fine. But if you're trying to get pregnant, these are some of the things that you might want to take a closer look at. Things that deep down aren't supportive to your health and your well-being and to conception. In Ayurveda, we actually have a word for this that translates to crimes against wisdom, when we know they're not good for us, but we choose to do them anyway. Some examples are smoking. So maybe you're someone who keeps telling yourself that as soon as you get pregnant, you'll stop smoking, either marijuana or cigarettes. Well, smoking might be one of the challenges that's causing, that could cause a fertility imbalance or challenge. Drinking alcohol. Are you having more than 2 drinks per week? Sexual immorality. Are you ever unfaithful? Do you have an imbalanced relationship with pornography? These are some things, especially from the Ayurvedic perspective in the more spiritual sense, can really affect fertility. And also an addiction to being busy. And this is one that I definitely relate to. Do you spend enough alone time with your partner, or are you always prioritizing something else? Are you always prioritizing getting things done versus just being? There is an imbalance there. There is it's great to be productive, but there's definitely a way to tip over that edge. And it can be an unwholesome lifestyle to be addicted to being busy. So are you doing any of these things? What can you check in with yourself? Check yourself. Be real. What do you know is not good for your well-being, and you're choosing to do it anyway? How can you make small shifts toward doing less of it, right? It's like, it doesn't always have to be all or nothing. You can just start to think about how you can remove these things little by little. Okay, and then barrier number 4 is physical hindrances. So these are things that this protocol, this program may or may not be able to actually help you overcome. These are things that you might want to work with a doctor to have them ruled out, ideally. And if they are considered issues for you, that you actually get some support to work through them from a medical standpoint. But some examples are systemic hormonal imbalances like polycystic ovarian syndrome or PCOS, hypothyroidism, or even just coming off the birth control pill. There such thing as mechanical issues of female fertility, like a blockage due to scarring, endometriosis, or intercervical obstruction, a lack of proper development in the reproductive organs, a narrow vaginal passage, cervical fibroids, ovarian tumors, endometriosis, an unhealthy ovum produced by the ovaries is something that can show up, and any other uterine abnormalities. Something else could be severe anemia could cause fertility challenges. Obesity could be something to really look at and keep in check. Any vaginal imbalances such as bacterial vaginosis, yeast infections, vaginitis, vaginal acidity, vaginal stenosis, herpes, or other infections. These are all things to have some medical support around. And then age. So fertility is most potent and available between the ages of 16 and 35. And I want to be really clear that that doesn't mean that you can't get pregnant past the age of 35. It's just that it'll take extra awareness and support and focus, most likely. But it doesn't mean that you can't get pregnant. And in fact, we have seen so many success stories of friends and clients who get pregnant into their 40s. So not to scare you, but age could be a factor. Okay. So now that we've laid some foundation around what some of the barriers are to successful conception, let's start to lay out a plan for overcoming them. Just as you would weed and till out a field before sowing the seeds, and just as you would set up your baby's nursery before she comes into the world, you should prepare the space within your womb and within your heart before attempting to conceive. This aspect of the fertility journey is absolutely essential, and it's actually often overlooked in the modern approach. As I have mentioned, the key to this approach is twofold. So first, you are asked to do a deep cleansing of your body, mind, and soul to remove stuck energy and material that could get in the way of conception. And then secondly, you are invited to build your tissues and your essence by taking in substances and experiences that are deeply nourishing. Both aspects of this approach are absolutely vital, and it's important to keep in mind the spiritual and emotional components of each. This process is essential because, according to Ayurveda, the condition of your mind, body, and soul will not only impact but define the constitution of your child. So again, if there's one thing you take away from this workshop, just know that it is what you do now that impacts your child's future. So the degree to which your child is able to survive in the world is directly related to the state of your well-being when he or she is conceived. So as we dive into the two aspects of this approach, phase 1, which is the clearing phase, and phase 2, which is the nourishing phase, keep returning in your mind to the barriers that we've already covered. The practices we will cover next inherently help you move some of these barriers, but it is also important that you take ownership and responsibility for making choices that overcome those barriers as they show up in your own life. Only you know what your relationship with those barriers is, and you will have to take responsibility to take action for yourself. So in this workshop, as I have also mentioned, we're going to focus on this clearing phase because it's really important to clear for at least 8 weeks before you begin the nourishing phase. It's not actually helpful to dive directly into the building and nourishing phase, even though that part can be really, really fun because that's where we get to get into some really, really juicy, sweet stuff. But it doesn't even work if you don't do the clearing first. So that being said, I will share with you at the very end just a few practices that you can start to integrate right away. Okay. So let's see here. Yes. Okay. The first phase of the journey to conception is all about clearing your mind and cleansing your body. The miracle of conception is nothing short of that. It is a miracle. An incredible sequence of events has to occur, and an amazing amount of things have to be out of the way to have a successful conception of child. Furthermore, having a clear body and mind lays the physical and energetic foundation for your child to be happy and healthy. Being intentional in this process by cutting out toxic energy and substances from your own life is crucial. So, whether or not you identify as a woman, conceiving a child involves inviting more of a subtle energy of the feminine into your life. This means allowing a certain amount of softening and receptivity. As one of our favorite teachers, Maya Tawari, mentioned, she said, to reclaim the brilliant health of the womb, we must ignite the feminine wisdom, power, and security within us. So in what ways can you soften your approach in the world? In what ways would doing so invite more peace into your life? In what ways would softening create more space for love? In what ways would softening your mind and spirit create more stability in your own life? This is truly vital because clearing conflict, tension, fear, and instability to create an environment of peace, love, and stability is vital to healthy conception. So we're going to get into a little bit more about how to do that. I see that there's questions happening and I just want to make sure. Oh, good. Oops. Okay. So as you seek to soften, what is one of the best ways to soften? It's probably to reduce stress in your life, right? So take stock of your life and start to make some real changes over the coming weeks. You want to start to think about and maybe even jot down in your journal right here, right now, what are your main stressors in life? You can make a list for yourself, make a list in your journal. Think about your personal life, your professional life, and in any of your relationships, your friendships, your partnerships. What are the stressors? Can you hone in on them? How can you eliminate them? You might start thinking about finding a new job. Stop working late or bringing your work home, which of course is more relevant when we're not working from home during a pandemic, but people who don't just leave work at the office and bring it home, that can cause a lot of stress in the relationship. Set boundaries with your in-laws if that's something that is up for you. I hear that a lot in couples experiences. And maybe like if money is an issue or a stressor, maybe try getting an accountant, face it head on. What can you do to understand your stressors and then work to shift them? Then you want to incorporate de-stressing activities in your life. How can you be more intentional and conscious about incorporating de-stressing activities into your life? Things like walking, talking with your partner or your friends, doing yoga, cooking, laughing, eating, and of course, making love. So these are all de-stressing activities, more nature time if you can. And then of course, meditation, right? We hear about meditation all the time. We all know that we should be doing meditation. And I know that it is hard to find the time, even 10 minutes to sit down and just be with yourself. But it's actually such a simple practice. And if you just start with 10 minutes a day, it can actually make a big difference. And you can start to work up to more like 20 or 30 minutes a day. And if you don't already know how to meditate, it can be so simple to just sit in a seated position with your back straight and with your eyes gently closed and your body relaxed, your shoulders relaxed, your face relaxed, and you just start focusing on your breath. You just start focusing on the in-breath and the out-breath and how it feels as it runs across the tip of your nose. That is meditation. And you'll find that thoughts might float through your head and the idea is to not attach to them. The idea is to just let them float right through and the next thought will come and you let it float right through. If you can do this for 10 minutes, So many studies show that this will reduce stress and actually support you in honing into your intuition, which will also really, really support you to listen to your body and know what's best for you on your fertility journey. Meditate for 10 minutes a day. We're all trying to do it. I'm still also trying to do it all the time. Then affirmations. Affirmations are something that we're going to come to at the very end. But an affirmation is an intention spoken aloud as a positive statement. And I just want you to know that an affirmation, a positive statement that you speak aloud to yourself, is actually a powerful way to reduce stress in your life. So you can start using those right away. Okay. The next strategy is to clear and connect with your partner. So in addition to softening and clearing stress in your life in general, it is vital to bring the soft, receptive energies into your partnership as well. This is not saying that you can't be the powerful woman or person that you want to be, but it is about softening into a relationship, a receptive energy. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of nurturing your relationship with the person with whom you intend to conceive and or raise this child. So how can you do that? Some ways you might do that are to prioritize spending time together. Set aside intentional time and focus on a shared activity. Really, like what can you decide you both love, whether it's cooking or hiking or an evening stroll, something that you both really enjoy. How can you intentionally set aside time to do that together? Also connect physically. Make time to snuggle or give each other massages and actually really prioritize that. Just prioritize it for the fun of it, not even to have it be a sexual interaction. Just get back into physically connecting and cuddling with one another. And then when you do have sex, don't make it about conception. I've heard so many stories of people who only got pregnant once they stopped trying because they remembered that they liked to have sex to deepen their connection with one another and to deepen their love. So especially during this clearing phase, during this phase one, this clearing phase, it's not actually about getting pregnant. It's about the clearing. And so during this time, you can still have sex, but just make it about creating and clearing a beautiful space for your baby. So yeah, that makes sense. And then you can also consider relationship counseling. Even if you don't think that you have any issues at all in your relationship, most relationships can benefit from going and working through things and sort of like proactively unearthing anything that might show up down the road so that resentment doesn't build, getting to know your person on a deeper level, and avoid any tension before it can even arise. So relationship counseling can be a really, really powerful thing to do right now during the connection phase. In the complete program, we're going to cover things like mudras, which are powerful ancient finger postures for building energy with you and your partner. And we're also going to talk about ways that you can discover what your partner likes by doing like pleasure games and things like that, ways to just really discover each other on a deeper and deeper level. And I forgot to mention on the last slide, with reducing stress in your life, I'm going to give you some really, really powerful tools for doing that as well in the 12-week program, including yoga nidra, which is sleep meditation, really, really powerful practice for shifting the subconscious mind and relaxing the mind and body, cleansing yoga, and some breathing techniques as well. Okay. So, of course, we already talked about some of those barriers, and you saw that some of the barriers had to do with food, and food is such a big part of our culture. It's such a big part of our life. It's such a big part of our well-being and health. So we are what we eat, right? And so indeed, the food we consume becomes the very foundation of our wellness. It gives us energy, provides nutrients for our cells, and becomes the basis of a high functioning immune system.
Eating quality whole foods nourishes our bodies and keeps us functioning optimally, while eating heavily processed foods with unwholesome ingredients starves the cells that can lead to toxic buildup within the body. A buildup of toxins in the body clogs the channels of the body that are responsible for cellular communication and elimination of wastes. When this happens, the chances of a fertilized egg actually being accepted by your body are dramatically reduced. So this is, again, something that we're going to go into great detail in the full program. I'm going to give you some really, really powerful ancient Ayurvedic practices for cleansing, and details on what you can and should be eating. But for now, you can begin to think about the basics of what is and isn't serving your fertility in terms of what you're eating. So here are the basics of what foods you should avoid. Processed sugar, especially high fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated oils. These are often found in processed snacks, and they create a cholesterol imbalance, which is essentially a clogged channel in your body. Chemical additives and preservatives, which are again often found in snacks, any processed snacks so much of the food that's available in the center aisles of the grocery store, and are toxic to the body. This is going to be a tough one, but coffee and caffeine. Caffeine elevates the stress and creates an environment that is not hospitable to an embryo. And this is, as you move through your fertility journey, you might just consider reducing your caffeine intake. I know that this is an important ritual for people, and I don't want to take something away from you and have you shut down. So just start thinking about making small incremental changes. Drinking less caffeine each day, going down to every other day, trying green tea instead of coffee. Like, there are a lot of ways that you can do it. But if you are a cold turkey kind of person, you can feel free to go cold turkey. Gluten is another one. This is interesting. We are not anti-gluten in Ayurveda in general. But there are some studies that show, and we've seen some experience in our clinic with our teacher, where once women were off of gluten, they were able to successfully conceive. So something very interesting to keep in mind. Alcohol is toxic, and it also has the qualities of hot and sharp, which aren't supportive to an embryo trying to take hold in your body. And then cold and raw vegetables, which have the qualities of cold and rough, which also reduce fertility. So I want to acknowledge that I just mentioned some qualities like hot, sharp, cold, and rough. These are words that you'll hear come up a lot as you explore the concepts of the principles that are available to us in Ayurveda, because we talk a lot about how the qualities of different foods and experiences and activities and things in our environment are affecting the qualities within our body. And this is just absolutely foundational to the Ayurvedic approach. And it's something that we'll really get into as a tool that you can use not only on your fertility journey, but as a lens that you'll be able to view the world, thinking about the world in terms of qualities and how those qualities affect you. But what you want to know now is that sharp, cold, and rough are not qualities that you want to take into your body while you're on a fertility journey. So then, what foods might you focus on? Definitely, it's not necessarily Molly and I's style to talk a lot about foods that you should avoid and don't eat this, don't eat that. We like to talk more about what foods to focus on. And then you'll sort of naturally drift away from some of the foods that aren't serving you. So what foods should you focus on now and forever, really? Fresh fruits and vegetables. The more colorful, the better. As you're walking through the grocery store, really look for the most colorful fruits and vegetables. Those are the ones that have the most phytonutrients. They're the most nourishing to your body. Whole grains and whole grains are also an important thing to be focusing on right now. Basmati rice is a very key whole grain in Ayurveda to be focusing on. Also quinoa, millet, corn, and whole wheat in general. Organic proteins such as eggs, legumes, full fat yogurt, as long as it's not sweetened, fish and white meat, healthy fats such as ghee, coconut oil, olive oil, and avocado. And then the tastes that you would want to focus on are bitter, pungent, and astringent. And this is something that is specific to the clearing phase. These tastes are specific for cleansing, for clearing your body. Once we move into that nourishing and building phase, we're going to be incorporating more of the sweet and salty tastes, which is, those we generally think of as being more fun. So you can look forward to that. But for now, thinking about bitter, like something that's bitter is kale, for example. Pungent is like garlic and onion, cumin, things that have like a little bit of a spicier flavor. And astringent is like pomegranate and bananas and things like that make your mouth feel a little bit dry. So those are going to be the cleansing tastes. In the complete 12-week program, we are going to talk about beyond simply what to be eating, but thinking about how and when to eat in order to tend to what we call your digestive fire. And this is really important for preventing that toxic buildup. We'll talk about things like why all the food and beverages you consume should be well cooked and well spiced and eaten at room temperature above. And we'll also talk about when is the best time to hydrate throughout the day. So there's going to be a lot more to come on that. But I will emphasize just a bit more on this detoxifying of your tissues and channels. Most of us are walking around with internal metabolic waste or toxins that results from improperly digested food. And according to Ayurveda, this is a heavy, sticky substance that is toxic to the body and is at the root of all disease. As I mentioned, the buildup of toxins in the body clogs the channels and that the body uses for cellular communication and eliminations of wastes. And when this happens, the chances of the body accepting a fertilized egg are dramatically reduced. So furthermore, if an egg is able to be fertilized and the embryo begins to grow, if toxins are present, it can adversely impact the constitution, health, and well-being of your child to come. So to be clear, these toxins are generated when in the digestive tract when food is improperly or impartially digested. And this occurs when your digestive system is not functioning properly to transform the food into nutrients. So what that means is that the best way to prevent and reduce toxic buildup in the body is to keep the digestive fire burning bright. So let me give you a little hint, because I already just mentioned this on the last couple of slides, that a very important way to do this is by focusing on eating warm, well-cooked, and well-spiced foods. In other words, you can think about making soups, curries, stir fries, macro bowls with roasted vegetables, whole grains, and a protein. Basically all of those foods that I just mentioned eating more of, but just making sure that they're cooked. And it's not to say you can never have a salad again, but just ideally cook all of the vegetables and the quinoa and all that good stuff and put it on a bed of lettuce. In the complete 12-week program that I'm putting together for you guys, we will cover a full set of guidelines for keeping your digestive fire burning bright. We'll talk about exactly what to do if it's not. We'll look at warning signs when you know to be able to understand when your digestive fire is not burning bright and when toxins might be being produced. And then I'll give you some very key practices for making sure to eliminate all those toxins that could be blocking the bodily channels. This is not only important for fertility, it is vitally important for fertility, but it is also the key to health and longevity. So it's really a foundational Ayurvedic concept, and it really matters here on your journey to conception as well. So there's a lot to share about detoxifying, but I do want to give you just 3 quick takeaways on how to gently detoxify your tissues. I'm not going to go into the why or even necessarily the how on these just for the sake of time. But if you wanted to just walk away with a really powerful 3 things to do. One is remove sources of toxicity like bad diet, cigarettes, and occupational hazards. Like if you work in a hair salon and you're dealing with chemicals all day, like be thinking about things like that. Drink warm lemon honey water first thing in the morning, 16 ounces, just do it. Detoxify. And then scrape your tongue. You can get a tongue scraper online. We can talk about it later, but scraping your tongue is vital for removing toxins from the body. Okay, now a quick practice for detoxifying your womb specifically is castor oil massage. So many of you already know me, as I said, through Vibrant Souls, and we use the practice of yoni steaming, which is going to come into play during the 12-week program. And I'm going to walk everyone through exactly how to yoni steam, why it works. So I've just witnessed an unbelievable number of women get pregnant with the practice of yoni steam. And if you want to go get a sneak peek on that, if you haven't heard of it before, you can check out soulvibrance.com and learn more about yoni steaming. But today I wanted to share about castor oil massage for those of you who haven't heard of that as something new to integrate into your practice. And this is something that's going to clear physical and emotional blockages in your womb. Because castor oil is known in Ayurveda to break up masses, essentially break up blockages, and it can travel through the subtle channels of your skin when you apply it. So to do this practice, you're going to warm the castor oil about a half ounce in a jar. So you put half ounce of castor oil in a small jar and then put that jar in hot water so it warms the castor oil just slightly. Ideally, it's organic and hexane-free castor oil. And then you would have your partner just dip his or her fingers into, or maybe a friend, dip their fingers into the castor oil and then rub it on your lower back, spreading it lovingly. And the massage strokes should move from your sides inward and from your upper back downward, like this. And just be gentle. You can kind of check in about the pressure that they want and just do that for 5 to 10 minutes. And if you can do that for like three times a week is a really, really great practice for helping to clear out any stuck material and even energetic clearing as well. Castor oil massage. Let's see. Yeah, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about yoni steaming in the complete program, as well as the Arvigo techniques of Mayan abdominal massage, which I'm just going to refer you to Rosita Arvigo's techniques. I'm not certified in them, but I do know that they are a powerful, powerful tool as well for repositioning the uterus to make sure that there isn't blockages in the way in that regard. Okay, so that was a lot about the clearing phase, and I know we are getting close to our 1 hour, but I am just going to share with you a bit on the nourishing and building phase, which accounts, so this will be the last 4 weeks of the 12-week program, and then you'll go beyond those 4 weeks will go beyond until you conceive your child. And this is essentially the equivalent to planting the seeds and fertilizing the soil, which you wouldn't do until you've done the weeding and the tilling, right? So even though I'm sharing this with you now, I want you to do your best to hold off on doing these practices because you're going to do the clearing phase first. So after clearing, you are going to begin eating building and nourishing foods. Let's see here. Yeah, this involves just really enjoying some of the sweetest, most delicious, lovely foods that are available to us, like mango, which you can see on the screen. Let's see, we're gonna go right into here. Okay, so nourish and build with food. What sorts of things are you gonna get to build your temple with? The sweet taste, honey, basmati rice, mangoes, dates, almonds, sweet potato, anything like that. I'm not talking about processed sugar and candy bars. The salty taste, sesame seeds, seafood, cheese, salted food that's salted with mineral salt. Healthy oils like high-fat dairy, ghee, avocado, coconut. Warm foods, again, they're always going to come in. They're always going to be super important, but they're even more important in this phase. Soup, roasted or grilled vegetables, golden milk, and then vegetable protein sources like quinoa, lentils, well-cooked beans, low glycemic carbohydrates like whole wheat bread and basmati rice. In the complete program, I will provide you with a complete nourishing and building food list, as well as why these foods are vital from an Ayurvedic perspective, as well as a Western perspective, and more information on specific foods that build vital essences for optimal fertility. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit about how to keep that sweet and salty taste in check, because they can really easily go out of balance and cause more harm than good. I'm just going to check on what's going on in the chat box here. Nice. I do want to honor everyone's time, and so maybe I'll have Molly just drop the link where I'm going to share a little bit more about the 12-week program here in just a minute. I would love for you all to join. We're offering an incredible pre-enrollment price right now. If you're available to keep sticking around to hear about the program and hear about that discount that's available, please do. But otherwise, if Molly, you want to drop that link in the chat box, and everyone will probably have to copy and paste it. I think Zoom doesn't have the ability to click the link, or maybe they updated and you can now, but copy and paste it into your browser and you'll be able to see what's available in the pre-enrollment phase right now. And then the course is going to launch on the 23rd of June. So just for anyone who does have to jump off the call, I want to make sure that information is available to you now. Another thing that you'll start doing once you're in the nourishment and building phase is to supplement with nourishing herbs. And honestly, this is something you could start doing now if you wanted. But I love to hydrate with herbal tea. It's just like, what better way to hydrate than with medicinal waters? So look for teas that have red raspberry, oat straw, nettles, red clover, alfalfa. Also, I didn't add them to the slide, but cinnamon and gotu kola, which is also Brahmi. These are really, really great fertility enhancing herbal supplements, teas. And you can look at traditional medicinals. Oh, that's supposed to say yogi tea. And Organic India are some of our favorite brands. And in the complete program, I'm going to tell you about a really, really delicious ancient Ayurvedic herbal jam that has been used for thousands of years to increase fertility. And we have access to share some of that jam with you all. It's called Chavanprash. And it's absolutely delicious and a key part of enhancing fertility. And I'll also share with you some specific Ayurvedic herbal supplements that once you are ready to do the building phase, you can start taking these supplements to help build and nourish your womb. Another big part of enhancing your fertility in the building phase is going to be doing certain breathing techniques. I'm actually not going to share the breathing technique that I was going to share with you today just because of time. But in the full course, we're going to go into some really key breathing techniques for building, for cleansing, one, and then also for building and nourishing and making sure there's full oxygen coming into your womb. And I guess what I can say right now is that breathing connects your body and soul. And so the deeper you can breathe now, the more intentionality you can bring into your breath now, the easier it's going to be to bring on some of these breathing techniques that we're going to talk about. And the more you are actually, again, bringing that energy, that consciousness, and that fresh oxygenated blood into your womb, which is going to be just wildly supportive on your journey. Okay. So then, to make time and this is making time can be really hard for a lot of us, especially here in the United States, where we have very much a culture of go, go, go. There's a big component of time. So do your best to align and time your conception in ways that include relative stability in your life and peace in the world. This is part of an ancient Ayurvedic wisdom to only conceive when there's peace in the world. But there's a lot of pain and struggle in the world right now, and I acknowledge that. And that does not mean that you should not try to conceive a child. As I mentioned before, this is perhaps an even more important time to be consciously conceiving children that can make a difference on this planet. So just cultivate stability in your life and peace in your home. Make sure that you're really setting all of that up first. Then set aside time to connect with your partner, right? We already talked about some activities and we talked about ways that you can connect with your partner, but just make sure that you're really scheduling that in and creating space for that. And then a really important piece on timing is also understanding your unique menstrual cycle. So there's a whole component of understanding the timing of the month, and knowing that the most fertile days of your cycle are the 4 to 5 days leading up to your ovulation, plus the day of ovulation. And you'll know that, so that's about halfway between your two periods, 14 days into your cycle. And you'll be able to tell physically because you can look for cervical fluid that looks and feels like an egg white. So if you put your fingers down in your labia and it comes up and you can you feel the moisture, and it's got sort of like a stretchy but clear, shimmery quality to it, that's a cervical fluid that indicates fertility. This information is taken from a book called Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Toni Weschler. And I strongly recommend that everyone gets this book. We're going to talk about the fertility awareness method that she teaches in the 12-week program. But there's no way we could cover, and I of course wouldn't take her material. She's brilliant, and she has a lot to offer in terms of timing your, when you go to start trying to conceive, knowing when the best days to have sex are. And then make love. So this is, of course, a very, very key aspect. And I often, I think I sort of touched on this before, but I often hear stories of people who tried and tried for years without having success of conception. And they were doing all the protocols and going to the doctors and doing all the things. But the one thing they forgot was to make love. And it was often, so sex became sort of a mechanical procedure, right? And it was only when they stopped trying that they remembered to make love to one another that they were successful, that they were able to conceive a child. So with that in mind, prioritize your sexual experiences with your partner as love and connection. Find out what each other truly enjoy sexually. Take the extra time, attention, and care to serve each other in this way. And actually, if you can see on the screen, I put this link to Jaya's erotic blueprint quiz, which I know at least one or two people on this call right now have taken. But it's at missjaya.com. And this is a really powerful way to understand if you're having a hard time connecting with your partner sexually, this quiz can help you understand what each of your unique needs are. And it's a really, really powerful way to shift the dynamic and figure out how each other want to be truly loved. Also, just do things like extend foreplay with partner massage. Use organic oil, ideally oil that has been scented with only essential oils, and really make it luscious. Find a way to make foreplay luscious and long and beautiful. And then remember that missionary position is ideal for conception or any position that you have gravity on your side. So the sperm isn't having to swim upward. So these are just a few very brief touch points on making love. Again, something that we're going to go into much deeper in the 12-week program, how to do partner massage, what herbal infused oils to use. I'm also going to share with you some really fun potions that are like aphrodisiac potions, or elixirs for you and your partner, as well as a special post-sex warm beverage to help revitalize all those vital energies that are used during a sexual encounter. So again, just to return to that affirmation as we round this out, I can't emphasize enough how important affirmations are. They are a really, really powerful tool for actually altering the subtle mind and shifting our deeply held beliefs that we might not even realize that we have. It's essentially a positive statement that's spoken aloud and spoken into the world as if it is already true. And one way that you can create a affirmation is to think of a fear that you have, or an insecurity, or anything that you have that you're harboring, and flip it into a positive statement, and then begin repeating that affirmation to yourself, whether it's aloud or whether it's silently. You might repeat it in the car while you're driving, or in the shower, or maybe at your altar. Wherever it is that you connect with spirit, you can speak this intention aloud, because in doing so, you're actually able to shift the subtle energies to make it become true. And what you don't realize is that those fears and insecurities are actually preventing, on a subtle level, but very powerfully, your hopes and dreams from coming true. So when you use an affirmation, you are essentially creating a new reality. So I've put an example here because I know that there may be fears that show up for people who are seeking to carry a child around this, around trust, for example, of your body. So the affirmation that I invite you to consider first, and then you can make your own, is, I trust my body to create, nurture, and birth new life. So just let that wash over you for just a second. I trust my body to create, nurture, and birth new life. And if you sense a resistance to that, you might notice that there may be some fears around that for you, and that might be something to explore more deeply. But you can also just use this affirmation to remind yourself again and again and again that you are indeed capable of creating, nurturing, and birthing new life, and you can do so with absolute brilliance and beauty. So keep that one with you. Okay, so I'm out of breath. I feel like I've been talking so fast. I hope you guys were catching all of that. I hope you've learned a lot today, and that you're taking with you some new ideas and some solid action items that you can begin to implement right away. But as you've heard me mention, this is really, really only the beginning. I'm just barely scratching the surface here with the amount of information and the wisdom and the practices that I've collected to share with you through this full 12-week program. It's called The Art of Fertility. We're going to go really, really deep for those of you who choose to join us. We're going to unearth the physical, emotional, and spiritual blockages to conception, learning how to nourish all levels of being to call in a healthy, balanced, and highly aware child, and discovering joyful ways to reconnect with ourselves, our partners, and, while we're at it, the planet. And I am just so beyond excited because, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is something that I've been feeling called to do for so many years, and heard so many of you through my Vibrant Souls community that this was something that you were struggling with and needing more support around. And it's been years in the making, and I'm just like bursting at the seams that I finally get to share with all of you who have been asking for this for so long. A fully integrated 12-week step-by-step program. It's going to go through the 2 phases that I mentioned. It is founded in the principles of Ayurveda, so there is a incredible vast breadth of knowledge beneath, foundational to what I will be sharing with you, but there's also evidence-based medicine weaved in, and other ancient practices from around the world and other things like Toni Weschler's book on fertility awareness that I'm going to weave throughout so that it's really, really comprehensive and touching on all of these points. I'm going to include so much here. You're going to learn the Ayurvedic principles and practice, deep cleansing techniques, relaxation modalities, daily routine checklists so that you know that you're making sure to make time for all of the important aspects of life. I'm going to get you a nourishing food list. We're going to talk about yoni steaming, as I mentioned, breathing practices, yoga asanas, mudras, mantras, seasonal, monthly, and daily routines, and aromatherapy, color therapy. We might even get into a crystal or two. You can find the course. I think Molly has put it into the chat box, copy and paste it, but it's at learn.cultivatebalance.com/courses/art of fertility. And the really, really exciting thing, because I'm so just honored and grateful that you all are here so early on with this, as I am just getting ready to roll the course out. There is a pre-enrollment phase happening right now. And so you can actually enroll in this full 12-week program for $33, which is like such a wild deal. But it's because I'm so excited to have you all in here. I know you've been asking for it for so long. This is a 66% savings over what the course will be worth on the long term. It's going to be $99, and that price shift will happen on June 23rd when the course goes live. But between now and then, if you enroll for just $33, you will get a replay of today's live workshop, a PDF handout with a few of the key practices that you can start to integrate right away in case you weren't taking notes vigorously, an easy to follow food guide with cleansing foods to focus on. So I mentioned some like a broad array of foods that you might think about, but I'm going to actually give you a list that you can download today and actually start building meals from that. You'll also be invited to a private Facebook group for community and Q&A with me. It's really important to me that I'll be able to connect with each of you, and which will also provide an opportunity to share your questions, your hopes, your desires for learning, and for taking what you want to take away from the full program. And you'll get real-time access to the program material as it rolls out over the 12 weeks. And then you'll have the ability to review it for a lifetime. So when you're in for $33, you're in for good, and you're going to have all the access to the materials as they go live, and you'll be able to have access to that forever. So I really, really hope you'll join. I'm so, so honored to share this information with you. There's so much more, but even though there's so much more, I just hope that you got a lot out of today. I tried to really put some of the big picture items in so that you can get started right away. I know that fertility is something that is really, really a powerful force and I see you and I feel you in it, and I am so, so committed to being there for you in it. So, yes. So from today, if you take just 3 things away, remember to intentionally reduce stress in your life, reduce toxins by cleaning up your diet and drinking lemon honey water in the morning. And then deepen your connection with your partner, yourself, and your support network. Whoever is going to be part of this child's life, focus right now on deepening that connection. It is so, so, so vital. So if you got nothing else from this workshop, take those 3 things away, and I hope that they make a difference in your life. And otherwise, take a few minutes after you go pre-enroll in the program to journal on those takeaways, and thinking about how you can start to implement what you've learned right away. I'm so excited that you are here, and I'm so grateful. And thanks for staying after. I know we did go a little bit over, but a reminder that you can find us at cultivatebalance.com. Molly and I have an Ayurveda practice where we see clients, and we also have a whole host of online courses, which you can find at learn.cultivatebalance.com. And we're so excited to have you as part of our community. I can't believe how many times I've said I'm so excited. It's just that it's true. Thank you all so much for being here. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and we will connect hopefully in the very near future. We're available to connect. Thank you all. Have such a wonderful rest of your day.